today is all about the bass. I'm going to show you a couple of ways to get better sounding bass guitars, and I'll point out a frequency or two that can cause a lot of issues and how to combat them. Hi, if we haven't met yet, I'm Stuart. I'm an online producer, musician and mixing engineer. I've worked on so many songs for both clients and my own material. Let me tell you a story. When I was younger, I was in a band. The bass player of the band, he was possessed with the notion of getting a wonderful, clean sounding bass. Every time we played, he'd spend an hour or so just fine-tuning his tone to get the perfect bass tones. Clean, crisp, clear. They were rubbish. Awful. Let me show you the sort of tones he was getting. We were in a rock band consisting of me on drums, 2 guitars, bass and a vocalist. It was so bad, one of the guitarists was forever adding bass to his guitar tone to fill out the sound. The real secret to getting a great sounding bass is none of those things. You want your bass to be deep, rich and above all a bit dirty. The difference is night and day. But as a standalone, I'd probably rather listen to his tone than the dirty one. But how many times does the bass play alone? The bass makes up the lows of the band, which frees up the rest of the musicians for the mid-range, top end, etc. This is also a common problem with MIDI bass tracks. They tend to be really clean. They're crisp, they're clear. We don't want clean. Our bass needs grit and distortion. So without saturation, and with it, and in the mix, without, and with. I don't know about you, but for me, actually with the distortion in the mix, it has more clarity to it. It's more distinctive, I can hear the bass line better. But a MIDI bass still sounds a little artificial to me, so I would always recommend having a real bass player play on your tracks. Another thing that I see all the time is a guitarist who thinks that bass is just another guitar for him to play. Don't get me wrong, there's some cool bits in there, but the song sounds empty, and frankly, in the mix, it sounds a mess. Then you get the bass player who tries to steal the show. We've all seen them, the ones that put a run in whenever they can. It is fancy. bass player is part of the rhythm section. It's the backbone. It's not the front line. If you play it right and you don't get too carried away, you will enhance the vibe instead of taking over the vibe. Okay, so now we have a great sounding bass. What can we do in the mix to enhance what we have? The first trick I want to show you is something I learned a long time ago, and I use it regularly. Whenever I record bass, I always record my bass amp and a DI track as well. This enables me to do this trick quite nicely. Okay, so we've got the bass amp, we've got the bass DI track. In the mix they sound like this at the moment. Sounds quite nice. But if we listen to just the bass amp on its own, you might find no bass player is perfect and they will never hit the strings exactly the same each time. So a way to counteract this and a way to get a consistent low end is if we open up an EQ, pretty much any EQ will be fine on the DI track, and we're going to do a high cut or a low pass filter, and we're going to take it all the way down to 140 Hertz. So that on its own now sounds like. And what we're going to do with the bass amp track, we're going to do the reverse. So get an EQ, and instead of a high cut or a low pass, we are going to high pass it or low cut it to exactly the same frequency, 140. So that on its own now sounds like. So what we're doing is we're cutting out all this lows here. And then we're going to use this track to effectively mould our tone, but the DI track we're going to use to build the low end. So now it's going to sound like, you have to do some volume adjustment on this. What I like to do on the amp track, I like to bring the volume down and then bring it up into the DI track. And then once I've done that, I will treat those two tracks as one instrument. Is it a huge difference in the mix? On this track, probably not. But you'll get some bass lines where one note will be anything up to 3 or 4 dB louder or quieter than the note before it. And this can just balance out the difference in the noises and make that lows nice and consistent. A very common frequency that I see in bass guitars all the time causing issues is between around 120 to 150 Hertz. There's quite often a set frequency that causes issues. Let's see if we can find it on this track. You hear there where every now and again it just peaks out, and this track's at 130 hertz. With dynamic EQ, it's an easy fix. So all we do, hit the dynamics, drop it down, and we're going to hit the threshold, so when it peaks out it will activate. So if you look here, you'll see when it kicks in and by how much it's kicking in, which will highlight exactly how much that frequency was jumping out by itself. Again, will just help tame the bass. Make it glorious, warm, rich, but not overpowering. On your next mix, just try to refrain from any fancy runs. Don't go too high on the bass, keep it nice, low, consistent and solid. Apply these tips and I think you will be surprised as to how good your bass now sounds. Alright, thanks for watching, it means the world to me. Drop a comment below and let me know if these tips have helped you improve your bass tones. I'll catch you on the next one. See you later. Bye.